Welcome to Gaia Dairy Farming Insights, the infotainment podcast for the Dairy Farming Network. Join our community that takes you on a journey through the vastness of milk production, your source of knowledge and inspiration in every episode.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Gaia Dairy Farming Insights podcast. Today we will be talking about automated feeding, and we will talk about practical examples. So how automated feeding looks on different farm types like automatic milking farms, conventional farms, but also beef farms. So really take a look into the practical side of automated feeding in different examples. My name is Maren. I'm the host of this podcast, and I'm very happy to be joined by my two colleagues, Kenneth and Wiebke. Well, Kenneth, we've already talked about automated feeding in some former episodes, and you've also explained that topic in different formats on social media. So very happy to have you here again.
Yeah, hi, Maren. Happy to be here. My name is Kenneth, and I've been working with automated feeding since 2011 with Gia. And yes, we planned this podcast because we have been talking before, but we think we have so much to share, and we have some hands-on experience from our customers. And we had the chance now to invite our new colleague, Wiebke, who has been with us for almost a year now. And as an introduction, she has visited a lot of farms. So we have the latest insights from the farms. And I thought that was a good opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah, my name is Wiebke. I joined Gaia in March of this year, and I studied agricultural science and worked on different kinds of dairy farms. So I focus a lot on the herd management and also the cow's perspective on our feeding robot.
Good to have you both here. Yeah, let's dive into the details. So when the farm starts with automatic feeding, we sometimes, of course, see the first motivation is straightforward. They want to save time, they want to save labor. But after some time, many farms really experience also additional advantages and see that the results go far beyond just labor savings. Kenneth, what are the experiences on many farms here?
Yeah, that's true, Mar. It's always very interesting because there are a number of factors that could be motivation for a farmer to look in the direction of automation, if it's milking or feeding or whatever. Of course, today we're focusing on feeding. And as you say, it could be time saving, flexibility. There are so many different possible takeaways for the farmer. What we see is that they start out saying, this is important to me. And then after a while, sometimes we see that turns out that, yes, that was important, but there were really other things that were just as important or perhaps even more important to them, but it takes time for them to discover. So if we take, for instance, we have a farm that was started in 2023 with milking robots. And then, of course, he started with feeding. So he really wanted to reduce labor.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a pretty cool example because it's just a regular, smaller scale family farm with just one milking robot, approximately 60 cows. And so he invested in this feeding robot, like you said, just to save labor because he's doing everything by himself. And his main aim was to save time for his family. And what he's seen is pretty cool because he did save labor a lot. But what he also recognized was that he could increase his milk yield to 3 to 4 liters, which is a lot. And this was not his main aim, or he did not expect to achieve this when he invested in this feeding robot. So it's pretty cool to see.
The good thing that he definitely didn't regret. You told me the other day what he had one regret. What was that?
Yes, he told us that he regrets that he didn't buy it earlier. So because he's very happy to have it. People keep asking, I have such a small farm, so less cows. Does it make sense for me to do such a huge investment in a feeding robot? But we see these examples that it works very, very well and that farmers are very happy to have done the step. So
Wiebke, how was the startup on that farm when they really decided for the feeding robot and then got it going? Was that an easy process or?
I think it's actually easier for farmers who already have some sort of automation on their farm, like a milking robot, or maybe even automatization another part, like in like fattening pigs or something, because they're kind of used to how the system works. So doing daily maintenance, doing the service is very important, so the system can run smoothly. But I know that farmers who don't have any experience with automatization are a bit afraid of being available all the time, being called by the robot in the middle of the night, because for sure the robot has to run 24 hours a day. So if there's any breakdown or something, the farmer has to go out and check. But farmers who are used to automatization are not afraid of that, because they just trust the system and they know that it works and that it does a lot for them, that they save labor. So they're not afraid of doing this or being available, because it brings so much more.
So this example shows that the feeding robot was really an add-on even to the automated milking system, which was there and perfectly harmonized with each other.
And even for the cows, it's pretty cool, because with automated milking, they don't have this synchronized day rhythm. They go to milking all by themselves individually all the day around. And with the automated feeding, around the clock, we can support this behavior and can kind of support these going to milking all the day.
Yeah, we're going to talk about another example in just a second. But interesting is that if we are having automated feeding with robots, we see a lot of positive influence on the flow on the farm, on the animals, and the workflow. And if we talk about conventional milking, some of the factors or the positive sides are the same, but there are also other things, different aspects to look at when we talk about conventional.
Right. So this was a nice example of a fully automated farm. But of course, we also know many examples where the automated feeding is used in combination with conventional milking. So what are the experiences that you've seen on farm here, Hiebke?
Actually, I would like to talk about one farm that I've seen. The farm started with our feeding robot, and last year the farm has around 200 cows, milking cows, and like you've said, is conventional milking. And in conventional milking, we have a lot of labor during a very small period of time in the morning or in the evening. The cows have to be milked, the cubicles have to be cleaned, and there's feeding. It all happens basically at the same time or around the same time. And with our feeding robot, we can take this part of the labor away, so we can provide fresh feed to the cows when they come back from milking, which is optimal. And without having this big part of the labor, and also for the cows, because they all come back from milking at the same time and they all want to eat at the same time. And this is a lot of stress, especially for the younger and low-ranking cows. But with automated feeding, these cows know that they don't have to be on first row at the feeding fence to get fresh feed. So they don't have this stress and they can come back later on because there will be fresh feed again. And this is actually what this farmer I've talked about told us, that he could see a huge improvement in his first lactating cows, that they're just healthier and producing better. And what I would also like to mention about this farm is that actually, except from the heifers, this farm has not seen a huge improvement in milk yield, but he could see an increase, that his components in the milk increased, which is great as well, and also sign for a good performance as farmers get paid for it. And stable and balanced homogeneous components is also a sign for a very healthy herd. And this is also what the farmer has recognized, that his cows are healthier and the fertility increased.
So, Kenneth, is this something where you say it doesn't matter if it's an AMS or a CMS farm, this health improvement aspect is really one of the biggest benefits that come with automated feeding?
It is really an important thing. If it's the most important, I don't think, not necessarily we can rank it like that, because it is important, but so are all the other factors. And the takeaway that we would like to discuss today is that farmers often have these different reasons, 1 or 2, perhaps 3 reasons that say, okay, we would like to look into that. But then they discover after a while, there are really a lot of other advantages that they didn't see from the beginning, and also that they didn't necessarily think was important to them. Turns out it's very important. And that's the beauty of the automation and the flexibility of this system, is that we can have a positive impact in so many different ways, depending on where the customer was before they started with the automation. So as Wiebke just mentioned, this particular farmer was doing a huge job already with the feeding. So this means that, okay, we couldn't push the yield that much, but then there are other factors that were improved. And sometimes it takes time. It could be 6 months, sometimes a year, before you really see, okay, what changes did it actually bring?
Yes, exactly. Especially these health-related topics, they show up like after a couple of months or maybe even a year. It's nothing you can recognize after like 4 or 6 weeks. So it's very important to be patient at that point.
Sometimes we also hear that the farmers, they don't even realize it themselves. So people have to come to the farm and say, hey, what did you do? What did you change? Because I can see that you improved on this or that. Because it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And if you go there every day, maybe you don't realize it.
Exactly. It can also be, for example, that the milk yield stays on the same level once the feeding robot started. But if you look back, it was summer and it was hot. And all the other years before, there was a drop in milk production at that time. And we haven't had that due to the feeding robot, which is also a great improvement, which you might not recognize at first time.
So really different benefits which also appear over time. Now you've talked about 2 examples really from milking cows farms. Let's take a look at another example of a beef farm where you've also made some interesting observations.
We've a couple of beef farms, but there's one farm we want to talk about today because it's a mixed farm. The farm has 2 milking robots, so around 120 milking cows, and also have beef cows. So a lot of cows to feed, a lot of labor.
Yeah, this is an exception because you, as we said, you visited pretty much all the farms. But this farm, I was there not long ago, and it's really very interesting story because he has also been feeding for 1.5, 2 years now. He was one of the first cereal systems, and when we first came on the farm, he was actually not looking for AFS at all. That was not what he was interested in. There were other products from GIA, which was the reason why our sales colleagues were on the farm. And one of the things that he was interested in was a feed pusher. And a feed pusher can be a fine solution. But our good colleague, he saw right away that, maybe there's something else that this farmer could benefit from. And he asked him, did you ever consider automated feeding? And perhaps he did, but he just didn't think it was possible. And when we look today, what he's actually achieving, what he's actually doing with the system, we understand why. Because let's say we're close to the limit, or let's say we are probably at the limit. He has milking cows, and he has beef cows, and of course he has heifers, and he has dry cows, and he has calves, etc., etc., etc. He has 36 groups that he's feeding 6 different rations. I say again, 36 groups. And I think we do that in 5 or 6 different buildings. He has 7 doors that we open and close automatically. So it was not on his mind. He didn't think it was possible to do that automatically. But fact is today that we're actually feeding all of his animals in all these buildings, in all of these groups. And of course, he saves a lot of time. It's him and his father feeding all these animals. That's quite impressive.
So obviously, that's really impressive, as you say, and it shows also the flexibility he gains and the possibility that this system can really adapt to the different formats which are on the farm. So yeah, really impressive.
And we see that also a lot as the farmers get to know their system, that they can optimize and work with the system, and then they develop. Because this farmer said, yeah, I want to start feeding these animals. These are my milking cows and my beef cows. That's the most important thing. And that is what takes the most of my time. But then he added all the other animals because it was possible. So basically, he wouldn't be able to feed the way he's feeding today if he did not have an automated system. It would simply not be possible.
Yeah, this is actually a great example for the advantages that our system brings, especially for this farm, but also for farms with less different groups of animals, because we have the opportunity to do very small rations for the specific needs for each group. Like especially we see it for young stocks or maybe for dry cows. They usually get like for young stocks just one ration because everything else would be maybe not even possible because the mixing wagon does not have the option to mix smaller rations, but also because it would be too much work. But with our automated system, it's pretty easy to tailor a ration for each group that suits their needs. So
that's also something that, which if you have seen, of course, is important. And one of the reasons why you are on the farms, that when we start a system, there are a lot to learn for the customer. So the system can look quite complex, and there really also are a lot of things that you can do with the system. But most farmers don't use everything. So they find out what is important to me and what do I need to work with. And it could be feeding times, it could be mixing times, it could be changing the filling order of the different ingredients. So when we start up a system, we do it with the best intentions and what on the picture we see that day when we start the system. But it turns out that after a week or some weeks or a month, we can see then, okay, this needs to be adjusted or this needs to be changed. And this is why we go to the follow-up meeting with the customers, and you do that, Vibke. And sometimes it's very small things and sometimes it's bigger things, and you can see what could be improved here.
yeah, so when I was at farms, I focused a lot on mixing quality because it's very, very important to ensure animals' health and also performance. And what I always see is that each ration needs another setting. And at least when the farmer changes the silages, like from a more dry silage to one that's wetter, you have to adjust the settings, like especially mixing times. Some silages need to be mixed longer. Some silages need less mixing. So it's something that farmers have to always check and adjust. So yeah, to ensure that the mixing quality is always on the best level possible.
Yeah, different aspects you permanently have to take a look at when working with automated feeding. So we've heard so much about from different farms, different examples. So automatically milking farms, conventionally milking farms, and even mixed farms with beef, all using automated feeding. So Wiebke, if you summarize the experiences and benefits of all of these farms and even others you've visited.
Yes, our customers show us that they're all very different. The farms are very different, the animals are different, but also are their expectations that they have when they buy the feeding robots. And what we see is that all these expectations like increasing milk yield, like saving labor, like improving animal health can be met, but sometimes even the advantages go beyond these expectations, which is pretty cool to see.
Yes, typically we talk about these soft factors that you cannot put into this return of investment calculation. But turns out that they are very important to all of our customers. But you see that over time, you see the advantages you get, you see the changes that you bring to your farm, just the quality of life that you get into your daily work. That is something that is difficult to put in an Excel sheet.
That's a nice summary, Kenneth. So yes, with this summary, we really come to the end of our podcast. Yeah, we hope you enjoyed the view in real life examples on how farms work with automated feeding. And you even gained some new insights, and you can reflect even perhaps for your own farm. So thank you very much, Wiebke and Kenneth, for joining us today. And thank you to the audience for listening.
Follow us on our social media platforms to stay updated and subscribe to our podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. If you have questions, suggestions, or even ideas for future topics, feel free to reach out. Join us soon for another exciting episode as we continue to explore the world of farming and the people behind it. Until then, keep farming and growing.